Hey, what's up guys? I'm back with another game that I made using Flutter, and the game I've been working on this week is chess. Now that I've basically finished the mechanics of this game, this video is less of a tutorial but more of a overview and showcasing of my code and the general approach I took to code this game up. So you can download this code from my website, which is basically this whole game, and I'm just going to go over the different methods and what you're going to find in that code. I've been wanting to experiment a little bit in terms of the format of these tutorials that I make on this channel. So usually what I like to do and what I've been doing in the past year is showing you guys how to code particular apps and games completely from scratch, right? So starting from nothing and showing you every step of the way, line by line, which I think is pretty useful, especially for beginners to watch someone else code line by line. But as these games are becoming more complicated and progressively larger in size, it's becoming a little bit impractical for me to show you guys line by line because the length of the tutorials are becoming quite long, almost like an hour-ish these days. And so I'm gonna try in the next few videos to experiment with a shorter format to make it more concise, maybe like 20 minutes or so, and just go through the overview of the code that I made. And of course, you guys can download the code from my website, so you can access it through that. So yeah, if you guys have any preference between the two methods, any sort of feedback would be greatly appreciated. Now, just to demo the game that I have made, so this chess game. So first of all, the main widget to use here is of course going to be a grid view builder, as I have used in many of my other 2D games. So I've just set up this grid, and the other thing is these images. So I have all of these images that I got from the internet. So you don't have to get these particular images, but I think these ones look nice and cute. So yeah, if you download the code from my website, you'll get all of these images already built in. Now, just to demo the game a little bit, so if I select any of these pieces, it will show you the highlighted piece, but also where you want to go, right? So if I want to go here and then the black piece goes here, you don't want to just show the available position, but also any possible kill moves, right? So if I come over here and I kill this black piece, then I want to display the black pieces that are dead on the top, and vice versa for the white pieces, right? So like let's say I'm going to move this guy here, move him there, and then the black piece is going to eat the white one, and then we want to display the subsequent dead pieces here. Okay, so this is basically how the game is going to work. So you have all these bishops flying around, you know, you got these kings and knights. So if you download the code from my website, then what you'll find is we have a main function which just has the my app as a stateless widget, and this is going to fire up the home page. And so I only have 4 files here. So main file, the home page, and then these other pieces, dot dot. And so in the home page, so I've just got a bunch of variables on the top. Looks like there's a lot here, but if I just break it down, some of these variables, so there's 8 pieces in a row that I want, and there's 64 total number of squares, right? And I'm also keeping track of the currently selected piece. So like if I select this pawn and then I change my mind and I want to select this rook, then I want to keep track of that, the one that's selected. The other thing is to keep track of the list of dead pieces, right? So the dead white pieces, which I'm going to accumulate down here. If I just show you, if I just kill some more pieces right here, let's say, it's going to continue stacking alongside here, and then it's going to stack as a row up there as well. And the main idea that I used in this game is going to be expressed through this list here. So I have a big list of pieces, and in the grid view builders, so we have 64 pieces in this grid, right? So 64 squares rather, and starting from 0, we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then going down to 8 in the next row. And so starting from 0, and this last number should be 63, That means we have a number representing each square. And so using that, I'm going to move the pieces around and position them appropriately. So for example, if I just restart this game, for example, right? So I said 0, 1, 2. So 0 is this index, and I'm going to keep track of, in that particular index, what other information should be in that particular number. So at 0, when you start the game, we should have a rook, right? I've actually written it in this comment here. So these are the different parameters to look for in each of these pieces. So the first one is the position, right? What index are you at? The second one is what's the piece? Are you a rook, knight, bishop, queen, pawn, etc.? If you're a blank space, then you're just an X. And of course, we want to keep track of the color. So black piece is up here. For this one, we want to say it's all white there. I want to keep track of the selection. So everything at the beginning should be unselected. And only when you tap a particular piece, we would change this to selected, and then it would change it to a green. And then the last one here is possible kill. So right now it's blank, but if I put a K here, it's a possible kill move. So at the beginning of the game, nothing is a possible kill move. But only once you get to say like here, then this particular piece here is going to change, the corresponding index is going to change it wherever it is to a K. And so using this, I can know what's a blank space, which is an X, what's a possible move, which is this open green space, and also what's a possible kill move, which is this. And so using these three parameters, you should be able to cover all the bases in terms of like what you can do in a chess game. And aside from that, these are the main functions that required like the main bit of work, which is the tapped pawn, tapped rook, tapped knight, tapped bishop, and tapped queen and king. So obviously, depending on the piece that you tap, you can travel to different places, right? So if I select this pawn, you can only travel forward, or if you have a diagonal that you can kill, then you can go there, right? And that's all encapsulated in this tapped pawn method here. I did my best to put as much comments as I can so that it explains literally what every line of code is doing. Okay, so hopefully that's pretty useful for you guys when you read through this code. But yeah, just to look at some of these other ones, like once I figured out tapped pawn and tapped rook, I noticed it's actually not that difficult to keep going. Like for example, like once I figured out tapped rook, which if I come over here and I kill this guy, once I figured out the rook as well as the bishop, things like queen I realized was just the same as a bishop and a rook, right? Like a queen basically is a bishop and a rook all together. And so I thought the queen would be the hardest thing, but actually after I made the bishop and the rook, it was them combined was a queen. And then after that, king was actually the easiest, which is just moving left. Like a king can only move, around it. So you can only move one particular positions. The only other helper function that I really needed was this unselect everything method. So this was really helpful. This just goes through using a quick for loop. It just unselects everything that's been selected. So for example, if I select this pawn, these are all green. And then if I didn't have this method, then if I select this one, these would be green as well as the new ones. It will just continue to accumulate on. So every time I tap a particular piece, I want to run this unselect everything method. And then it'll just cycle through all the pieces and just make sure that the parameter is unselected. And so that was probably the only helper function I really needed. Once we've configured all of these methods, like tap pawn, tap rook, knight, bishop, queen, and king, once you've got those figured out, where a particular piece can go and where it can't go, once that's done, basically the game is is finished in terms of the mechanics. So you can just start playing. But one thing that I didn't implement yet is this notion of turns. So right now I can select every piece on the board. So that should be the next thing to implement, which is, you know, if it's black's turn, then you can't select any other white pieces. But yeah, that shouldn't be too difficult to add on from what we did. The main thing was just getting all these pieces to behave properly. And the very last thing to add is actually the notion of checkmate and like a win condition. So basically, if the king is eaten, like if you kill the king, then you've won the game, and just show like a little dialogue screen, which I've shown plenty of times in some of my other videos. And that's basically how I made chess. Now, like I said, this wasn't really a tutorial per se. It was more of me just explaining the overview of what you'll find if you download this code from my website, and just going through the general approach that I took. If you are interested in a bit more of a detailed line-by-line code, then please let me know in the comments below. Like I said, I'm trying to experiment between different formats of tutorials, where my perspective is all about just finding the best way to teach other people how to code. So yeah, let me know if there's any preference in the type of tutorials you want to see on this channel, and I would greatly appreciate your feedback. Other than that, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.